Alright, hey guys, just wanted to make a quick video on how to keep our instruments tuned while we're at home, because I know while we're out, a lot of you kind of depend on bringing your instrument back, and myself or Mr. Buck, whoever helping you tune your instrument. I plan on posting this video in classes grades all the way 6th through 8th. So if you're a 6th grader and we're still only comfortable with the fine tuners, there's going to be a lot of helpful information for you guys. And if we're a 7th or 8th grader and we can handle most tuning issues ourselves, but like there's some of those difficult issues like your instrument's flat and your fine tuners all the way in and you need me to help, I'm going to cover that kind of stuff too, just to try and help us make us all as like independent as possible in the upcoming weeks whenever we have online assignments that we need to do and our instruments got to be in tune. All right, so first of all, as far as having a tuner, I know some of you have clip-on tuners available. I am online right now. This is just a random tuner I googled and found that I liked. You can see it's picking my mic up on the screen right now, and it's tuning my voice. It's using my microphone that I've got right here, and I've got my violin here. So, right, I'm gonna play an A. All right, and we all know this right now. We can see my A is a little bit flat. So I just give it a couple quick turns. Try it again. There we go. It's pretty good. That's passable, but I'm want to make sure we're really in tune. All right. I'm gonna wiggle it a little bit. That'll loosen it up. There we go. That's pretty close. Okay, so this is an example of one of the mini tuners that is available right now for you to tune your instrument. It works for violin, viola, cello, bass. Works for any of them. While we're at home, I know some of us have pretty noisy households. Maybe about right now, a couple of us are getting a little crazy. So with a microphone, you will need to make sure that you are in a quiet room. Otherwise, it will be picking up all the extra noises. If it's a clip-on, extra noise isn't going to be an issue. There could be an airplane taking off outside your window, and it's only carrying out the vibrations of your instrument, so that won't be a problem. Now, this I know we all know how to handle. Now this is where it starts getting difficult, is when, I'm going to use my A string as an example. Our peg slips it, we're at home, and maybe some of our instruments are sounding something like this. Or even worse. Or we're just totally, completely loose, and obviously there's nothing our fine tuners are going to be able to do to help us here. And this is where a lot of us bring our instruments to school. Cellos, I know we have to do this sometime. Like, I can't practice because my instrument's so out of tune. They need me to take care of it. I'm going to try and kind of show you how to do this. So the first thing we need to be able to understand, and this is something we covered a good while ago. I'm going to close this real quick. We have our musical alphabet. You see I've written out for you right here. And what we need to remember is, the music alphabet loops infinitely this way. Like after this G, I would have another A, and then a B, and then so on and so forth. And then before the A, this is where it gets a little weird in our brain. Remember, G comes before A in our musical alphabet. And right now, we are trying to get, let's say, for all instruments, this is the A we want right here. Right? And our instrument, since the string is so loose, is somewhere back in here or non-existent, because, see, I don't even know what that is. So here's where we would kind of have to use our ears a little bit as well and know whenever our instrument is either too low or too high, just in general. Right now, this is obvious. This is way too low. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this very slowly and very carefully. So I'm going to take my violin, and the trick to using the pegs, because remember, the pegs aren't actually attached to the instrument, they're wedged in. The only thing keeping this attached and staying inside the instrument, one is the fact that the string is wound around it there, and two is it's stuffed in there, kind of like you would do like a cork in a bottle. Like if you got a cork in a bottle and you turn it upside down, it's not falling out, right? Because it's wedged in there. So what I need to do with my violin, make sure I can see it on the screen here, is not only am I going to twist it slowly, I'm also just with a little bit of force, not too much where you're going to break your instrument, but pushing into the instrument, because I want to make sure it stays wedged in there. I'm just going to turn it just a little bit. That was it. I barely turned it at all. And I'm going to pluck it now and see where I'm at. Now, my tuner is kind of bouncing back and forth between A and A sharp, and I can tell by listening that this is still way too low. So I'm going to turn it a little bit more. Okay. Right now it's giving me a B. So I can definitely tell that's too low, but I'm also going to check it my little graph here. So here's my goal. I'm too low, so I'm probably somewhere around here is where I'm estimating. So I need to keep turning until I'm up to here. Alright, so here's my tuner. I'm going to turn it a little bit more. Remember, I'm pushing in and twisting just a little bit, being very careful. Okay, so I've gone up a whole note. I have now jumped from this B that I was on. Now I am here. So I still have a ways to go here. So I turned it a little bit more there because I know I still have a long ways to go. D, so I've gone up another note. Turned it a little bit more. E, I'm getting closer. So I'm basically going up one note at a time every time I'm turning it. Started here. I am here now on this E. I'm going to turn it a little bit more. That was kind of a big turn. That was a little bit more than I wanted to, but we'll see. F. Okay. I'm getting closer. Okay, F sharp. That's still higher than F. Remember, F sharp is higher than F. So I'm going up still. G. Okay, right now I'm getting real close. So let me pull this up again. I'm trying to get here. I am right here on this G. So here's where I definitely need to start making sure I'm being careful. Turn it a little bit more. G sharp. That's closer. One more turn. All right. As soon as your tuner hits A, this is where we need to, transition from using the peg up here and start using our fine tuner down here. So I'm going to bring this close so I can hear it. Perfect. Alright, so now you see how we use this combination of using our pegs and our fine tuners to get the notes that we want. Alright. Okay, so this is something just like learning to play your instrument does take a little bit of practice. It will be kind of weird at first. Remember, we're using a combination of both using this tuner here as well as our ears to recognize whenever we're too high or too low. Generally, if we are too high on our instrument, and if you're worried about breaking a string, usually, unless the string is if the strings are old, they're more likely to break. But if we've had the strings just for a little while or they're brand new, they're usually pretty tough. Generally, whenever we go a whole step or two above what the note's supposed to be, that's whenever we start getting to the risk of breaking it. It also depends on the strings. The skinnier strings will break first, like the E on a violin. If I get this guy up to past maybe an F, let me pull this up here. So let me erase my circle around the A. Oh, I killed the A. So here's our E. If I've tuned it too high and I start getting into the F and the G, that's usually whenever it's going to start to break. So just make sure we're careful with our smaller stringed instruments, violins and violas. This is bothering me too. Also, keep in mind, make sure we're paying attention to, here, I'm going to do this as an example. I'm going to tune my A up a little bit higher. If it'll let me. Just a little bit more. My peg's fighting me now. Maybe I'll use a different string. Right here, this is a perfect example. So notice it still says D. But But look at what it also is saying here on the screen. We've got this sharp right here. So you may have already know this. My beginners, this may still be kind of something we're getting used to. Remember, sharps are the note but higher. Like D sharp is actually would be here in between the D and the E. Remember, D sharp and D are not the same notes, just like we've always talked about how F sharp and F natural are not the same notes. So what you will need to do is loosen your peg, just turning it back a little bit. All right, I loosened it a little bit. Let's see what it says now. Still says D sharp. There we go. Now we can see I'm still a little bit on the sharp side, so I'm just going to loosen my fine tuner just a little bit. And if anybody are wondering why I'm looking over here, this direction, this is where I can see my camera and make sure like I'm on screen and you guys can see. So that's why I'm sometimes looking over this way. All right, so that covers most of what you will need to do to be able to use your tuning pegs. Remember, whenever we're twisting, we're wanting to push in to the instrument and just very, very small movements. All right, work your way slowly up to the note. Remember, we generally want to work our way up. If we're too high, you know, go ahead and loosen it. Don't try to loosen it down to the note. Go ahead and loosen it below and slowly work your way back up. Like for instance, here's my E all the way up to F sharp. This is definitely getting too high. I don't want to try and twist this down to the E. I'm going to go ahead and go twist this quite a bit. So now I'm at C. And let me erase this stuff because that's in the way. So I'm here, and I need to get to here. Right? Another example. So I am going to take my E string, which is that C kind of bouncing back and forth between C and C sharp, you can see there. I'm going to twist it a little bit, just a little bit, while pushing in. D sharp. Remember, sharp makes this in between, so this is actually really close. I'm in this area right here, like real close to this E. So I'm going to give it just a little bit more of a twist. Pretty much almost nailed it. I'm going to loosen it. And there you have it, into an E string. All right. Now, next issue I see a lot of you guys having, and I'm going to go ahead and set this up for it. Here we go. Here's a very common issue I see, even like my 8th graders with. Right now, here's my A string. I'm going to play it for you guys. You can see it's obviously pretty flat right now. But whenever I go to my fine tuner, you can kind of see right there, it is already all the way twisted in, and I can no longer tighten this. The best way, and really the only way we can fix this, is what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my fine tuner, even though I'm already flat, and I'm going to loosen it quite a bit to where I have a lot of screw there. Make sure you can see that. A lot of screw I can now work with. All right, and now my A string is even more flat. So back to my, my chart here. So here's the A I want to be at. And I am over here on this G. I'm going to erase this E we no longer care about. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to use my tuning peg and tighten it. Tighten it a little bit more. A little bit more. Didn't even need my fine tuners. So I hope that really covered everything that you will need to know about tuning your instrument. I know there's a lot of information in there. Just kind of like skip around for the things you need. Um, and if you have any other questions, always I'm home. You can send me an email or put a comment on Google Classroom, and I will try to get to it as soon as possible. All right. If you need anything else, just let me know. All right. Good luck, guys.